about 36% of all product discovery searches start in the Google Shopping channel. It's an audience that's very likely to convert.
You're listening to the Affiliate Marketing Podcast brought to you by affiliatemedia.com, the chapter and verse of everything you need to know about running a successful affiliate program for your business. Now, here's your award-winning affiliate and performance marketing host, an industry veteran, your affiliate marketing guide, and the founder of Affiverse, Leanne Johnston.
Small e-commerce brands often get lost in the noise of Google Shopping, outspent and outmaneuvered by retail giants. But what if there's a smarter way to gain visibility without draining your marketing budget? Today, we're exploring the untapped potential of CSS publishing with Joep van den Boer from Advertise, who's sharing how businesses are finding success in the spots that major retailers are overlooking. From dispelling common misconceptions about campaign performance to revealing the strategic advantage of positions 4 through 8 in shopping auctions, this conversation is packed with some practical insights for you to take away. Learn how European brands are achieving 111% year-on-year growth through CSS partnerships, and why the most effective position in Google Shopping might not be where you think. Whether you're running a growing e-commerce brand or managing digital strategies for a retailer, this episode will reshape your approach to customer acquisition. Welcome to the Affiliate Marketing Podcast with me, your host, Leanne Johnston. And today I'm super excited because I've got Joep van den Boer, who is from Advertise, which is a CSS publisher here in Europe. And I'm really excited to talk to you because this is an area of affiliate marketing that I haven't really delved into. And I'm sure that our audience is going to enjoy hearing the nuts and bolts of how to actually work with CSS publishers, why they should be working with CSS publishers, and really just understand how to leverage this in the performance channel this year. So it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast with me this week. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, and thank you, Leanne, for the opportunity to give a little bit of background on CSS in the affiliate channel. Something I'm personally very excited about. So for the people that don't know me, my name is Joep van den Boer. I've got about 7 years experience in affiliate marketing. Started my affiliate journey at Advertise, overseeing business development in Benelux and DACH. About 5 years ago, I made the move to WebGains. I opened up their office over here in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And since, only a month and a half, really, I joined the publisher side and I joined Advertise. Advertise is one of Europe's leading CSS and Google Shopping partners, basically helping generate traffic and conversions in 21 countries across Europe. I'm responsible as CCO for anything commercial. So the commercial strategy, the execution of the strategy, make the business grow as fast as possible.
Okay, I'm glad you explained that because everybody that comes on this podcast has got a fantastic title, but nobody really knows what it means. So we're really excited to have you here and get into grips with CSS. So I guess the first place to start is just to explain to people listening that maybe aren't from the e-commerce industry, but do manage affiliate programs as well. What is CSS? And how does it actually work?
Yes, very good. So basically, our main goal is creating extra additional visibility in Google Shopping. Now, why is that important? According to Business Dasher, about 36% of all product discovery searches start in the Google Shopping channel. It's an audience that's very likely to convert. According to Google, 52% of the people that are looking for a product are utilizing Google. So basically, you're in the middle of the customer journey and we just generate the right audience for your products. On top of that, we're not only doing CSS, we also have our own price comparison website, shopprice.com. We're active in 21 countries and we have about 2 million monthly visitors right now. So that's basically almost like a standalone extra product that we provide for you.
Yeah.
And the last additions to our portfolio is we help brands, mostly brands with marketplaces as well, to boost your listings and boost the number of sales that we generate for your marketplaces.
So are you only working in the e-commerce sector? Like what about B2B SaaS in e-commerce? Does that also kind of filter into your peripherals or is it more like retail product goods?
So basically with Google, we can advertise anything that is a physical product. That's basically the limitation that we have.
Yeah.
Obviously, the market is constantly evolving, so I cannot guarantee that rule is still in place by the end of this year. But yes, anything physical will work with the Google Shopping.
Okay. All right. So now we know what CSS is and what it does and what you guys do in particular. I want to talk about some of the technical aspects. Like if there are, e-commerce affiliate managers listening to this podcast what are some of the things that they need to have in their program before they start to think about working with CSS publishers like yourself?
Yeah, so basically to start with the absolute basics, and it's something that comes back quite often, I would say, in the industry, but a working affiliate program, and when I say a working affiliate program, I mean the tracking should be set up correctly. And
one would think.
Yes, one would think. It sounds so easy, but I mean, it's proven that it's not. And obviously, like, there's a lot of things going on with cookies and other stuff. I don't want to bore the audience with that today, but it's just very important that the tracking is working correctly. And then
you have to have, tracking through a network or a SaaS tool or any kind of platform that can, track the clicks, convert and the sales conversions, and then obviously have the revenue sharing alongside.
Yeah, so I'm happy to share with you guys that we, as Shopwise, we work network independent. So any tool that you use, any network that you use, any SaaS you use, your in-house tracking, whatsoever, we can work with all of those. Mm-hmm. And if you are not active on affiliate marketing yet, I can imagine that you might have an audience that's also, looking into affiliate marketing and not currently have a setup. But we can also directly integrate with you via our own tracking solution. So basically, for the ones that are still hesitant, we can, it's not holding you back for starting working with Shopwise.
Okay. So, what are the steps for integrating with you? Because I think it's important that people understand, so they might be on a network, they might be on a SaaS tool, but what are the steps for actually integrating, and what are some of the features and functionalities that you guys need in order to have that transparent working relationship with advertisers?
So there's basically three that are very important to us, and I will start with the most important one. Obviously, we already touched base on tracking, which is always a bit of a funny one, but product feeds tend to be difficult as well. Okay. Basically, all the information we get them out of the product feed. So it's very important to share as much data with us as you potentially can. And you can think of like things like an EAN or GTINs that are forgotten a lot of times, but that can improve your performance on the program significantly. Yeah. So we always ask our merchants, share as much as you can. So basically that guarantees the best performance of the program.
What about rejection rates? Because obviously if sales are happening, what happens if there's chargebacks and returns and things like that? How does that get managed on CSS?
Yes, that's a very good question, Leanne. So there's basically two things tied into each other. CPA to begin with. Make sure that your CPA is at least on the same level as your competitors, because we can obviously only do so much. If your CPA is half of your competition, it's not very likely that we can promote your products as much as we would like to do. Then coming back to your question regarding rejection, obviously we're in the paid media space,
sure,
which means we are, we're doing the initial investment for your campaigns. And you can imagine if we see an ROI initially that is looking very good, but then get confronted with a 60-70% rejection rate, that's obviously going to massively impact your campaigns. Mm. So what we usually tend to do, we ask our merchants, hey, can you give us a prediction of rejection? Obviously, returns in fashion, for example, are just always higher than in other industries. Yeah. So we know this and we're happy to work with that. However, bear in mind, if you're going to utilize a very tough the duplication process or whatsoever, which results in massive cancellation rates, that's obviously definitely going to impact your performance.
Okay, so that's why the tracking is important and why the technology is important. It's because you're going to need to monitor that over time. Now, let's talk about the role of CSS publishers and how that's evolved over the past few years, because I hear a lot of people saying we do need to work with CSS publishers and a lot of people saying we don't need to work with CSS publishers. So talk about the evolution of, how this is integrated into the partnerships economy and give us the kind of history of it.
So CSS is basically live for about 7 years now, 2018 out of my head. And it started off rather small. And it's quite funny when in my previous role, I've seen the evolution from a network perspective. Yeah. And when I left, CSS was by far the biggest revenue generator for the e-commerce merchants. Yeah. So it's fair to say that we went through a lot of growth over the past couple of years. The industry is constantly moving. So as an example, recently we added CSS PL, which means that as a price comparison website, you're in the actual Google Shopping auction as well. This means that we generated 25 times more website traffic than the year before, just to show basically what the impact has been. I recently went to Manchester for a Web Games event, and they highlighted that they've seen 100% year-on-year growth in revenue via the CSS channel. Wow. So Yeah, it's fair to say
Is
that
it natural growth, like of the consumer behavior changing in terms of how they shop, or is it actually like expansion of the marketplace? You don't know.
I think it's a bit of both.
Not yet now, but
I think it's a bit of both. Like what I usually tend to see as well is that up until a couple of years ago, those conversations around CSS were always a bit funny. Like affiliate managers would usually be very much an advocate for CSS. However, internally, there were always discussions going on with our PPC team, which obviously impacted the number of programs we could work with. Yeah. We've seen that when merchants actually try and test out CSS as part of their affiliate program, 95% of them keep working with CSS. And for the biggest chunk, CSS becomes the biggest revenue generator. So it's a proven technique, basically, to boost your sales and boost, your revenues.
Why is that, though? Like, is it because there's just so much clarity? You can tell the customer journey and when they convert and it's all trackable? Is it just because it's a really, transparent channel?
That's key. Transparency for us as a CSS publisher is key. We are always very transparent on what we do. And we open up as in, you can literally dashboards where we show you, what search terms we use for your campaigns, what kind of products that we show in the ads, what kind of, impression share, what kind of click rates, what kind of conversion rates we see. So basically, on top of delivering performance, we're also trying to educate you and your PPC team on what's working for you as a brand. I think that's one of the ways that we try to distinguish ourselves from other CSS partners in the industry.
I love that because a lot of people, and I'm actually busy working on a piece of content right now because it's a question that I get asked all the time. How is affiliate supposed to help my business grow? Because it's no longer a channel on its own, like affiliate transverses many different channels and platforms, it becomes very difficult to figure out, is this actually adding value to my business or is it another expense? And I think Impact recently just released a really great incrementality report, which we'll link to this podcast as well. And I think that the question that you should be asking yourself in terms of which types of publishers you need to be working with is really simple now. It's every type of publisher you should be working with because performance is no longer a channel that sits next to PPC or next to paid media or next to SEO. It traverses all of them. But the payment mechanism, like paid media is upfront and affiliate is pay on performance. Yes, there are also upfront costs that happen with affiliates as well because not every publisher can work on performance only. There needs to be a hybrid mechanic that goes in place. But I think it's very important to think of program segmentation this year. That's really the big key theme and trend that I'm kind of picking up from all the industry speakers that I'm speaking to here on the podcast and also at events. So I think that's a really, you've dropped some big numbers. I'm really surprised 111% year-on-year growth is not a number to be snuffed at. So if you're not yet working with a CSS publisher, maybe now's the time to kind of look at it if your program is relevant for that. But also, looking at opportunities for SMEs. So I want to kind of get around the small, medium enterprises because that's who we're really building this podcast for, is for people that need to scale, maybe don't have huge teams, want to look for opportunities that they can kind of plug and play and implement really quickly, which is kind of how I see CSS. That's augmenting what you're already doing. So we've got a mission this year to help as many SMEs as possible. It's part of the reason why we're running our Elevate Summit as well. There's a lot of e-commerce businesses coming into the market that need support and need help. So let's talk about their needs and how you feel your business can really help support the smaller e-commerce brands that are launching.
Yes. It's actually quite funny, Leah, and I just recently came back from Denmark. I was there last week for a conference where I actually caught up with a couple of SMEs, and they all seem to have the main struggle. And the main struggle is, as an SME, and let's say you're a reseller of products, you could be in home and living reselling big brand sofas, or you could be reselling trainers, sneakers. And the problem what those kind of guys face is they're bidding against the likes. Let's take the example of sneakers, right? You're bidding against the likes of the JD Sports, but you're also bidding against Nike and Adidas themselves. On top of that, you're also bidding against marketplaces. So the auction is just so big that CPCs are massive. You can do two things. You can completely rely on marketplaces now. The problem there, in my opinion, is that you just got very limited brand awareness. It's very hard to make a loyal customer out of a marketplace purchaser.
Yeah.
So basically what we try to do is we try to generate direct traffic. So you're up against the likes of JD and Foot Locker. You're in the same auction. You create the same visibility. However, the traffic that we send to you is direct traffic. If that traffic converts, they're your clients. And you can retarget them. You can, send them newsletters. You can create a loyal customer. out of that direct traffic. CSS, I think, gives the perfect opportunity to become visible. And on top of that, against a set ROI rather than paying Google CPCs, which obviously can get very expensive without a guaranteed ROI on top.
Well, the other thing as well is, I mean, if I was an SME with an e-commerce brand, I would want to know that the people that are spending my money know how to spend it well. If I only had one digital marketer that has to do, paid, social, PPC, SEO, like, to me, it's a no-brainer to just then outsource that bit of money that you want to spend to the CSS publisher that you want to work with. Now, here's a question, and I think most people are going to be asking it at this point. Do we work with one CSS publisher or do we work with many? Like, what's the strategy with CSS? Is it that you pick your poison and you go hard and you kind of build a partnership with the company that your competitor is affiliated to? What would the strategy be?
The truth is, there's not like one clear answer to this. Like, we end up working with or against the way, depending on the way you want to see it, but other CSS all the time. And I think a fair conclusion is that every CSS has their USPs. Some are very good at home and living, some are very good at fashion. Or like kind of USP, I guess, is performance. We're very performance driven. We work with 30,000 clients across Europe. So we have a limited amount of data almost available that we can utilize directly for your clients, for your merchants. So, whatever your preference would be, we're happy to support you either as a standalone CSS partner or together with the others in the industry.
So you really do need to have a strategy in place already, and you need to be thinking, is this partner going to help me in a certain region because they've got a strength there? Or is this partner going to help me because they've got a strength in a vertical? Or I just really like this partner and get on with my account manager. Like, there's a lot of different reasons why you work with different publishers. And and I suppose that makes good sense. So what are some of the struggles that brands have when they first get started with CSS they need to kind of think about and overcome? Like, when you work with new clients, what are some of the teething points that sort of happen that they need to either dig deeper into or kind of give time to get over? Because everybody wants performance right away, right? Everybody wants everything yesterday. But like, how does a typical campaign run, and what are the kind of timeframes that you need to leave to bed in and get going?
Yeah, so like basically, I guess we'll start with first things first. The main objection that we get as a CSS partner from merchants, and usually come from the PPC team, that are afraid that we would cannibalize their current in-house campaigns. Right. Long story short, first of all, you always have visibility in your own Google Ads accounts on the impression share. So where do we end up bidding against each other, or at least end up in the same auction, and where do we deliver incrementality? Obviously, any market channel you turn on has a certain amount of cannibalization, and I'm not here to tell you it won't happen with us. Of course, that happens too. However, we work on a CPA model, so for us, we don't have the marketing budgets that you as a brand or as a merchant might have. So we really focus not on the top 3 positions in Google Shopping. We focus on, let's say, 4 to 8. So really drive that incrementality. That's why it's so important to share data with clients, to show them that, we build trust based on data and not just cannibalize their own campaigns. Now, once you start working with a CSS, it's depending on a couple of things. First of all, is your CPA competitive? How is your product feed? If everything is good to go, we will take a couple of weeks to optimize the campaign. We obviously, what I mentioned before, we have a lot of data available. So I would say the ramp up is rather smooth. And most important is that we are in constant dialogue with our merchants. So it's not like we're going to turn on the CSS on the affiliate channel and we'll never speak again. No, we constantly are.
Yeah.
Well, it happens though, but for us, it's just important to build a relationship as well, and to know that we're actually doing something incremental to the brand. So we are in constant dialogue to see okay, what are you facing? What are you seeing in the market? Do you see any best-selling products that we can boost even more? Is there maybe room for, let's say, maybe a little CPA increase on certain products or categories, so we can push them a bit harder in Google? So also from that perspective, to sell overstock and that kind of stuff, we can always be flexible to the needs of our clients.
And in terms of benefit compared to media publishers, because one thing that clients understand is I put $1 in, I need to get $2 out, for this to work. So it becomes a little bit more tricky when you're working on performance, because it doesn't quite work that way. You've got to put a couple of dollars in to get it going and then bet it over and then see how it's backing out in terms of your CPAs. But what are the advantages that CSS publishers offer to small, medium enterprises compared to traditional affiliates or other paid channels? What are the key things that make you guys a really obvious choice?
So I think the first one is, Google is still the most used channel, and creating visibility in Google just drives so much like traffic to your website that it's almost, for me, a no-brainer to say like we need to utilize that, right? Especially when you can do it on a CPA basis versus doing it directly yourself on CPCs. The second part is that CSS is not discounting your brand or your products. You obviously have a lot of traditional affiliates that are more focused on the deal, let's put it that way, we are just full focused on the products you show us, you bring to us with, the price that you're asking.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think makes CSS really interesting for SMEs is it gives you the opportunity to fight, to battle with the bigger guys in the industry without spending their marketing budgets because they're huge, and you just can't win that,
You can't win that race. Yeah.
And I think it also offers you the opportunity to showcase more products in the Google carousel. Basically what happens, Google doesn't like to show two the same products from the same merchant in the carousel. So what happens, like if someone is looking for an actual product, we then don't show that product because you're likely ending up showing that product yourself.
Yeah.
We would show recommendations, which makes it even more likely for a merchant to generate traffic out of the carousel, because if the person sees an even more attractive product and even more attractive price, they're higher likely to click through.
So you can also break the customer journey then, because if a customer is looking for a black pair of shoes, I mean, I love shoes, so it's always going to be about the, and there's recommendations for other black shoes and not the one that I actually wanted to purchase, and the price is a little bit better, you can actually also direct the customer journey. And this is a big thing. We started out saying that there's 6 touch points in the customer journey. There's more like 28 now across different channels, across different platforms. And so I think, bedding down where you can actually secure sales at the middle of that journey, which is what you said CSS does, is really important to think about in your strategy, because most of us are always thinking about how do I get brand awareness and how do I get bottom of funnel conversion. But we're not really thinking about all those spaces in between, when customers are looking for different things and then they switch over to TikTok and then they come back. I mean, I did a webinar with a client the other day, and they said, they got leads straight after the webinar, and they were like, we don't actually know like how to attribute this, because it's a client that came from the webinar, from the leads list that you gave us, but they also filled out a contact us form on our website, which then tracked them to another campaign because that contact form was to something else, some other UTM code on their site. And they were like, we think it's the webinar because they came to us straight after, like the date actually dictated where they came to us, even though they'd been floating around in the kind of ecosystem. It was obviously the topic that we had spoken about that then converted them into the sale. So I think it is becoming difficult for publishers, like brands, to actually see where's this value coming from. And without augmented tracking that goes end to end and can show you cohorts of how customers move through different channels, it is becoming complex. Like, it's no longer just share your link and hope for a sale on last click wins. Like, it's becoming complex.
I think it can also add something here. And when I say add something, the customer journey you just mentioned that gets interrupted and maybe like diverted to a different product might also mean that your return rates are going to drop. Because if people make a more educated choice after seeing multiple products, the likeliness that that's actually the binder product that they really want to have is increasing. So, and obviously, like, returns is something that a lot of merchants are struggling with, which is a significant cost, I would say, to most businesses.
Cost and time wasting, and also not sustainable. Like, we want to live in a better world. So it's actually a very good byproduct of working with CSS Publishers. It's going to give you a lot of data back in terms of what you should and shouldn't be prioritizing to sell. So it's a two-way street here. It's not just about using you to get customers. It's also about using you for data. So I love that. Can you share some examples of success stories of businesses significantly improving their ROI through using CSS? Like, I want to understand real world like cases where you've actually been able to drive and deliver growth through strategic partnerships.
Yeah, so we have plenty of success stories, luckily. I guess the fact that we still have work with 30,000 clients proves that, the business is working. It's kind of hard to like highlight or pinpoint like one extra, like one case that delivered this growth. I mean, if merchants are interested after this podcast and they want to reach out and, based on their business, I can obviously send over some cases. I think the most important thing is that the guaranteed ROI, something that always comes back in every case, apart from like the revenue growth, the increase of sales, but it's predictable. So a merchant knows I spend €1, I get €10 back, which obviously in a lot of cases is not. The predictability isn't there. So yeah, again, like any business that wants to see like a case based on their competitors, like feel free to reach out and I will share that.
Okay, so let's talk about common challenges and misconceptions, because it's all fine and well that we've now validated that CSS publishers are definitely something that you need to be bringing into your program. We've explained why, and we've, shown you some of the features and benefits of working with a CSS partner. But what are some of the challenges and misconceptions that are out there in the World Wide Web that you want to dispel right now?
I'm going to come back to something I mentioned before to you, Leanne, but obviously a lot of merchants are still afraid that it's going to cannibalize their own campaigns or increase their CPCs.
Yeah.
Let's look at the auction itself and let's look what Google does.
Yeah.
Google always deduplicates on a merchant level. So if you're bidding for an auction spot and we're bidding for the same merchant, Google directly cancels the second bid and be like, you still pay the same CPC as you will be paying without us being involved. So, and of increased CPC is not really relevant in this case. Secondly, and again, something I mentioned before, we're not typically aiming for spot 1 to 3 in the auction, unless you don't run any Google Shopping yourselves. Then obviously we're going to be there. But we're typically aiming for the places 4 to 8. So ensuring that you have a higher chance of traffic coming to your website because you just have better visibility in Google. Those are the two most heard objectives in the campaign. And I think the way that we try to tackle this is by data. Again, we show you all the insights you need for your own in-house campaigns to convince, any people in the company that are still not convinced by the performance. And, for yourself, you can always go to the auction inside the Google Ads, and that literally shows you the impression share, shop right versus your own in-house efforts, if you're still in doubt.
So cannibalization is not an issue. We actually also need to use CSS to push out our competition. I think
basically,
yeah, thanks. Okay, so let's talk about the future of affiliate marketing as we wrap up this podcast. What are your thoughts? I mean, you've been in the industry a very long time. You've worked network side, publisher side. Where do you think the big trends and innovations are going to come this year?
Yes, I was actually doing an interview the other day, and I got a similar question about what kind of initiatives do I like in the industry. And I think one of the examples, and obviously very big in the UK, is Linkbee, that are creating this content in a very creative way and offer also a rather scalable solution for content. Content is going to be increasing. Influencers obviously are on the rise again, I would almost say. So those kind of channels, I'm quite excited to see what the future will hold for this. When I look at more CSS or industry, I think my personal opinion is that they get even more important. Why? Because we just see, you mentioned there's so many new businesses starting up. So the increased competitiveness in auctions means that if you don't work with a CSS provider, it's going a bit out of hand, especially for SME, prices that you will have to pay for that visibility are just so high that, it's just really, it's going to be really hard to be competitive. What we do basically... I
mean, I guess, sorry, just to break that train of thought, because I'm just thinking strategy-wise, you don't have to put all your products onto the CSS publisher. You can select the products that you really want to be pushing harder versus your competitor, especially if you know that your product is better, right?
Yeah, no, so we can work with any type of product feed. So if you say we only want to work with a selection, we can do that. My personal recommendation is be careful with the products that you exclude. Why? Because it doesn't always mean if someone clicks a certain product that they end up purchasing that product. So for the sake of generating as much revenue as you potentially could, even if a product doesn't have massive margin for you or a massive ROI, it might still be worth advertising this product and try to divert a purchase towards a different product rather than excluding them, because if you exclude them, we literally can't promote it in Google Shopping. Yeah.
Okay. What's your one big takeaway that you want to leave here for people listening to this podcast today?
So when it comes to CSS, I would always recommend, to test things. We're always big advocates for what I mentioned before, that we will take you by the hand, basically. But test it. And if you're not convinced yet, then let's make it a trial and take 1 or 2 months to actually see what it's doing to your performance. We have a very high success rate with that.
What kind of budgets are we talking about for a test, just for people listening? $5,000, $10,000? What's the kind of amount?
So we work solely performance-based, so there's no integration fees for us. You can work with fixed budgets on top, but that's definitely not mandatory. So you can actually easily start a test on basically only CPA. And we will always recommend you, we will always send you benchmarks. If we see that the CPA is not competitive, we will explain you why based on your competition. If we see other opportunities, we will always, talk you through them. But there's no additional budget needed for a trial period. It makes it even easier to, to try and see if it's working for you.
Yeah. Okay, what's one thing you're excited about in affiliate marketing?
I think this is social part. Like, we always love to go to events, to talk face-to-face to our clients, to other people in the industry. I think, generally speaking, the best relationships are built face-to-face, are built on the shows. So I'm really excited to be hitting the road again this year, see a lot of familiar faces, because once you're in the industry, it's very hard to get out. And I don't have to explain you that in the end, but...
Well, I've been 25 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and you guys listening in, you're in for a treat because Joep is going to be at Elevate Summit in London in July on the 15th and 16th. I'm super excited to have him there because he's bringing all of his knowledge and he is going to be having conversations with SMEs. So if you're an SME listening to this, you want to get into the affiliate space, you want to find out about how CSS can help you, come along to Elevate and meet him because he is a treasure trove of information and is going to be sharing all of that with everybody there. So it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast today with me. I am so looking forward to meeting you in person in July, if not before. And thanks so much for sharing all of your knowledge about CSS and helping us to understand why it needs to become a part of a segmented, healthy program.
Well, thank you so much, Leanne. I really appreciated your time here today. And I'm very excited to be in London in July. And if anyone has any questions in the meantime, well, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to support.
The Elevate Summit 2025 is here. Just join us on July 15th and 16th for the premier affiliate and digital marketing event this summer. This year, we're focusing on traffic, where innovation meets inspiration, and we're helping SME brands and affiliates to scale. Elevate is more than just another summit or affiliate conference. It's a transformative experience designed by industry veterans for those ready to embrace the future of performance marketing to grow their businesses. Connect with forward thinkers, affiliate pioneers, SaaS tools, and decision makers as you engage with cutting-edge strategies, immersive masterclasses, and strategic networking opportunities. Whether you're a seasoned pro or a budding SME entrepreneur, Elevate offers insights, tools, and connections to revolutionize your approach to bringing more sales into your business. Don't miss your chance to be a part of this dynamic community. Visit affiversemedia.com, click the Elevate button, and book your conference ticket to find out about our sponsorship and speaker opportunities today.